Good morning and welcome to OG Foundation, capital of the sovereign state of Lodium. I am your host, Sovereign Non of Lodium, and this is episode 18 of the 24-week campaign season, which means this is the start of the fourth quarter. Let me turn this around. So here we are in the sewer, in the gutter of Castle Stark. And so at the beginning of the fourth quarter, it's time for an inspirational speech. So I know you've been here probably more than once, and you're here now. So stick with us for another 6 weeks until the end of the season. How is that for an inspirational speech? It's almost up in flames. It's smoldering. There's smoke, but is there fire? I don't know. But basically, the first task for this week is that I need to do something about this sewer thing because it stays wet and I need it air intake through there. It just like naturally draws up in, so then it gets stinky for the wherever that's exposed, where the air is going into, it becomes stinkier. And so from that lot down there that I showed you last week, if you were tuned in last week, there's some of this leftover, some kind of like, it looks like a corner cap or some kind of like building supplies, all recycled from some sort of project. And so I'm going to repurpose those to be gutters. So I'm going to try to get them kind of overlapping so that the waste out of that drain can get further away so that it'll be dry when the air gets in versus all this mucky muck. And hopefully we'll climb out of the sewer, climb out of the gutter for the fourth quarter, to start the fourth quarter. When I was watching football, I was a fan of the Broncos. And back in that time, they were the best in the fourth quarter because they're high endurance trained, and John Elway was great. So, yep, long time ago. Into the gutter we go. So, this is a temporary solution. So, this gets all the water, liquids, all the way down to here. You can see it's like dripping right there a little bit. So, when if there's a lot of flow, it'll go around it, but that only happens when it's raining. So, usually the stinky water is when there's just a little bit. So that'll take it all the way down to here, so that this will be a stinky spot here, and it shouldn't be so stinky where the drain comes out, so that the air in there should be the air that's drawn in just through natural sort of, like a cooling duct sort of. It'll smell better. And so now that I got this to basically the easiest, but also it's a solution, it effectively solves it in the simplest way, using the materials available, these recycled materials, and then the rocks and tires to hold it down, and it should work. When people walking over it, if they kick it, it'll like disrupt it, so it's not a permanent solution, but it's a good temporary solution. And now I'm gonna see about carrying that big glass door upstairs. This door is so heavy, it's got a whole metal thing on the outside. So I got it in, but with just the 2 hinges I have, but it doesn't close, because it hits right there, the hinge. So I might actually have to mount it on the other side, or I don't know. It's kind of tricky, but because like the two bys on the side aren't square. This one's like coming in at an angle, and so I don't know. I gotta figure out how to reorient it. Woohoo, I figured it out. Basically what I had to do, this hinge was pinching itself and not allowing it to close all the way. So I had to put that hinge on the face of it, even though the other hinge is like that, so it's kind of unconventional. But because of the angle of that 2x6 was basically necessary. And now it can close just enough. And so now the top one is a spring hinge. At some point I'll put a hinge on the middle, and that'll probably help with I'll probably actually add 2 hinges, honestly, because the more it's spread out, the less like pressure is on certain screws which are bonding the mortar to the wood, because it looks like nothing's happening, but the wood, anyways. Basically, I'm gonna wind that spring hinge to keep this thing as tight as I can to keep this thing closed in the wind, because it's one of these herd doors, and it has like locks on the bottom and the top, and it's just like so confusing you need their whole like kit to really make it work properly. So I'll probably just add something simple like a triangle of wood up at the top that you can like rotate just to like keep it closed, and then the hinge will really help. So, but anyways, that's really great to have that in. I just want to be careful about what it's hanging on so I don't damage anything, because it is super heavy. It was difficult to get up those narrow stairs. The stairs are cool, but the narrowness of them makes things difficult to get up and down, plus the big steps. So yeah, just to do that hinge, and then I'll focus on the middle bay. So the spring is all primed now, so it'll close itself to, not all the way closed, but within like an inch or two. That's where it likes to sit, right there. And then I'll just figure out a latching mechanism up above, so you push it there so it closes, and then it's closed. And so for the meantime, I can just let it just sit like that without a latching mechanism, because even if there's a gust of wind that's pretty strong and it blows it out to the air, actually I don't want to put all that much stress on it. Shouldn't blow it out that far. So actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little block under the corner so that all that pressure isn't actually sitting on the hinges for right now, because that mortar over the next week is just going to keep getting harder, and I'll probably in another batch add another coat on it, and it's always easier to preventatively strengthen it than like if something cracks like around one of the screws or something up there, then it just gets progressively weaker and you can't do anything about it really. Well, you can, but it's just better to do it beforehand. So this is all set, and I'll just put the crowbar under it basically to keep it in place here. Give it a latching mechanism as well, and figure out weather stripping and whatnot and other stuff later, and I'll get on to this now. That's I'm gonna call it the suicide door. It looks like on the outside, because that's the door that you open and you just walk out, and you know, things happen. End of the day Friday, and I got that window in and the 2x6 crossbar also just foamed in, and so I'm going to end up filling in the gaps on the side with some of that same siding and try to match the other side as closely as I can, and I'll get into all that tomorrow. So I got the second window bay in. It's really sketchy in there, and it's sloped to fall out, and the foam's not hardened, so it could fall out at any second, but hopefully it doesn't, and the PVC kind of is like slightly holding it enough for the foam to harden. And that's pretty good at matching the other one. And I think right now I'm gonna see about, now that that's starting to foam into place, I'm gonna see about this gold reflection stuff and putting it on that top window, see how that goes. So I put a carabiner weight around the bottom of the flag, and now it doesn't, the bottom doesn't whip all around, it pretty much just stays there. And it seems to stress the pole a lot less, a lot more sort of consistent sort of force, and not just like whipping it all around. So it's not kind of ideal to have to do that and to have that hanging there, but it flies a lot better now. Yeah, it's flying nice and proper now. Only missing the gold fringe. The gold eagle accounts for it. There's a legion of sovereign people of the country of Vermont here. You just can't see them all because most of them are ninjas. So I got the reflective coating on both of those two windows, and then I put the excess, there's a little bit left, but the excess over here on what would be the eye, and maybe I'll like craft that sort of to like make it look more like an eye with this reflective stuff. That seems like a good idea. But I'm gonna go outside and see what this looks like from the outside. My day is about done for today. So I like it. I think the gold is great. I might end up putting it on all of the windows. It really, I like it. Very good. That's about as good of a close-up as I can get of the two window bays. You can see how there's a good bit of relief in both of them. So, yep. It's a funky, cloudy, windy day. And I was thinking mortar, but there's no sunshine for mortar, for power for mortar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start crafting this dragon head here. So I got that golden reflection on the window, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to like cut out the gold for like an eyeball, and I've got a little spray paint. I'm going to start with a little coloring. See, make the thing come to life. So step one is the nostril and the eye, and I don't know, it's really tricky. I think I'm gonna do the mouth next. And really, my ex-wife is supposed to be doing this, but she walked out on me, so hopefully somebody else will do the artistic stuff. But I'm just getting a rough thing in there. Oh no, what have I done? Am I making it better or worse? You tell me. It's almost like a clown dragon. Rawr, scary dragon. I'm thinking about changing the shape of the mouth a little bit, but otherwise, at the very least, that makes it, even if I don't do anything else, that makes it come to life, sort of. Well, I got rained out, but that's how far I got. Spray painting is complete for the day. Feeding the goats with tree branches, especially boxwood elder, ensures that I continually maintain the area here. And there's regular fires, abundance of material, and good quality time with the boys. Hey, I was just talking about you. We got a 10-foot fire. Another fire all burned out. Benny's eating my shoe. It's cut out. Alright, back up. All done for today. So before I changed the shape of the mouth, it kind of reminded me of like how people would paint their jets, kind of, with like teeth, and it looked kind of like fearsome. Well, this is Molly Stark, the Molly Stark Tower. So the dragon is Molly, and she doesn't need to be super fearsome. She looks, now I think, changing the shape of the mouth, she looks happy. She looks fearsome, but also happy. And so I'm going to end up, I think, taking that yellow line of like the whisker or whatever all the way the length of the tower, or like all the way under the windows once I move the ladder. Basically, I'm going to make a little hand patch and clean up that area right at the base of the corner of the flagpole, and cut that white PVC, because basically the drain that PVC is for, I kind of like put gravel around it and then mortared over it, and then at the bottom of the flagpole there's like a little drain hole. So that drain pipe is going to be just for draining the flagpole, essentially. So it still works, but just for the flag. So I'm gonna cut that off, but it won't be for above. And then I'm gonna end up adding more mortar above, so that there's probably a good bit of water that's trapped up in there right now because it rained last night after a while of no rain. But essentially I need to get that ladder into the tower so I can finish undercoating everything. Once I move it, I can do a full batch, but first gotta cut that PVC and do a little hand batch and finish up at that mortar point where the ladder is. Monday morning, started by clearing off these counters because, well, having the stuff on the ground actually helps when there's drips, because if drips hit other things, then it doesn't bond with the mortar and there's less cleanup. But most of the undercoating over this countertop is all done, so I cleaned it up pretty well. And all of the pieces of mortar and dust I put in this bucket, which was about half full with water before I started. And now what I'm going to do with all of this material, which is basically all of my waste material, is I'm going to cement it back into the structure up by the flagpole up there. So I'm just going to get, I'm not exactly sure how much cement, but there should be a pool of water up there from the rain. So I'm going to bring this up with some extra powder cement. I'll mix it by hand and get that to drain. So as anticipated, there's a bit of a puddle down here. So this will be more than enough to fill it. I just gotta mix, I think I mixed the cement with the water first and then mix this in, because that should be all. Anyways, it should work good. I think I mixed the cement in the water first and then mix that in. Hey, check it out, my little dripper thing is working. Perfect. Seems to be mostly going off of that. So that wasn't really the best outcome. It turned out a lot better over there because I had mixed mortar, and then I mixed all the debris and stuff with the mortar. This time I just mixed the debris with water and then added cement powder. And then there was also already water in there. So what happened is I lost a decent amount of my slurry to the runoff. And basically this is just going to cure into something that's not that hard. Or at least it's not going to have very good tensile strength. But it doesn't matter because this is just a lower. I'll just add over it. And it doesn't need tensile strength there anyway. So it's still going to perform the function of filling the gap. And it'll be solid. And once that settles, there's enough cement in there that it'll be a lot better than just kind of like loose debris. And then when I come over with a skim coat, it'll have a hard surface and something relatively hard underneath as well. So there were a few cracks around this triangle where the plug that I had put in, which is probably about that thick on the top of this, just to anchor in this plastic sheath for the pole here, it wasn't super well bonded with the sides of this. So there's like cracks around the ferrocement side and then like the mortar kind of plug with the lath kind of basket. So I mean that's ferrocement too, but basically I was putting mortary water in the cracks, and I got this one, which is the biggest one, totally full, and that one just a little bit less. So there's just kind of like a little crack between the mortars. So by putting mortary water in there, the water or the cement fills the cracks, and it can really heal it pretty well. So yeah, so I did that. It didn't resulted in some cleaning. Two things done at once. Now I'm going to make a little hand batch to do that little corner. Then I'm going to move the ladder and then set up for, if not a full batch, the rest of the bag of cement that I've been working with. But I might do a full batch. But it's been almost like a week, I feel like, since I did a full batch because things have been slowing down and doing internal stuff and lumber and whatnot. So I'll just have to get back into it. There's a UFO. It's the strangest thing. I don't know what it was. I stared at it for the longest time. I thought it was a bird. It came over from the west. Yeah, I can still see it. I don't know if you can see it. And then it came over and it like went in a straight line. It didn't flap its wings. It wasn't a bird. I'm pretty sure it's like some kind of drone thing. I don't know if you can see it, but I didn't have my phone at me right when it was like closest, and then I can't see it on the screen. We'll see later if you can see anything. Where is it? I don't know. That was weird. That was a legit UFO though. I saw it. I just don't know what it is. My best guess was some kind of drone, but it didn't make any noise. For a long time I thought it was like a bird, just like cruising on the wind. But it was more round. It didn't even have wings, and I can still see it with my visible, with the naked eye. It is right there. Getting seems like it's going in a straight line. Very strange. Very, very strange. So I just want to add about that UFO video that when I first saw it, it was coming out of the west, like pretty much in the direction of where the sun sets. And I was standing up on the top of the Molly Stark Tower, just kind of like hanging out, looking around, and then I see this thing, and like looking at the sky, and I've got my glasses on. I've got excellent vision with my glasses, super clear, and so I see this thing, and I was like, oh, that looks strange, from in the western sky. And so I noticed it right away. I was like, oh, that must be a bird. It looks kind of weird. It's like round. And I stared at it, and it like seemingly didn't move, but then it was like clearly coming closer, like directly on a line towards me. But it must have been at a high altitude. And then you see at the end of the video, because it's visible so long, it's at a very high altitude. It's moving at a slow rate away from me, and the clouds are at an even higher altitude, so you can still see it for a really long time. though when I had sunglasses on, so when I was looking at the camera I couldn't see on the screen, so a lot of times I don't get the best coverage. But when you do see it, it's at 10x. That's like my full zoom on my phone. And so it flew in a straight line, directly from the west, directly overhead. So at one time, I'm looking directly up at it, and it was like at some point, like probably in between when I first sighted the angle and when it's directly overhead, that I realized that this isn't a bird because it doesn't have any wings. It's like a round object, and it could be. So now what I'm thinking is it's kind of like it's moving in one direction. And so maybe it's got like propellers that are keeping it lofted, or maybe the round body itself has lift because it's not like a delta shape or anything. It's round. But I wouldn't think of it as like a saucer or anything, because it's moving in a straight line. Like I think of it first as like a bird, and then as a drone, and then like when it's directly overhead and these clouds like are doing all sorts of wild things. For like a short time I thought, like, is this connected to another like structure that I'm not seeing very well, like moving like with the clouds kind of. But then it didn't seem like that. That only seemed like that when it was directly overhead, and then as it like moved off, it was clearly different from and distinct, and it had clear edges. And so as far as I know, like I've seen tons of different drones and military drones and cutting edge developing drones and even UFO things, and or like saucer type thing. I've like looked into all of these sort of things over the years on the internet, and so I don't have anything to compare it to of all the reference points that I do have, and yet I saw it clear as day in the middle of the day. And so my idea is it's a platform. My idea is that it would be for imaging, and that might be a self-centered perspective because it flew directly overhead. So like my perspective is like, oh, maybe it was just getting like imaging of where I am, and it might not just be me. It could be like a whole thing. They could be going over everywhere over the land, and they're just getting high resolution imaging, and like you don't really need to tell people or something. And if you don't notice it, then no one ever knows about it. But there was that big thing about drones like months ago around like maybe the DC area. And but anyways, so that was just a random thing that happened that I've never seen anything like that before, and so that was unique. And even though the footage wasn't very good, I wanted to give you a little context because the best thing I can think that can come from it would probably just be an awareness that maybe it's like a military drone thing, or maybe it's like a commercial, or maybe it's a whole drone imaging thing that's going on, like how they have the satellites in the sky, and then they use aircraft, and they use things in the car like Google Maps or whatever. Like it's maybe just another element of that to be aware of. And people, and like somebody out there most likely is getting high resolution imagery, and that could be at a recurring thing to upload like a digital version of the reality and keep it updated or whatever. So anyways, there's just a lot of ideas about that. That ended up a lot longer than I figured, but oh well. There you go. My sand pile has gotten pretty small, and every time I access it, it puts me into a scarcity mentality, thinking, oh, it's running out. How much is left? How many more batches? So there's probably enough here for, I don't know, probably 5 more bags of Portland or something. But I ordered another delivery of sand, and so I'm prepping this whole spot, getting all the leaves out of there, and my perpetual little beach here will get renewed. It's nice to be able to have one spot dedicated for sand. One day I want to build like good walls around it, like a material pit pile, but for now I just ad hoc it. In the last batch that I did, I finished the undercoating for the ear there, and was able to get the ladder to a new position to be able to do that. And then I just got lots of coverage on that corner where the flagpole is. So I got coverage on the outside. So this is yesterday, so you can still kind of see it. So like on the bottom, on the top, on the outside, on the other side, and then on the inside. And I'll go up there and show you. So then I got that smooth coat on the like drain there, and coating on that whole wall and this whole wall inside, and then a good bit on the outside as well. So I'll just kind of reinforcing this point here, and then on the outside of the actual pillar itself on both sides, just because there's unusual stress on this, and so adding extra strength to all those things will benefit the entire structure. And so yeah, I'm thinking about getting into a full batch today, moving that ladder and finishing the undercoat of here, but I just gotta time that or schedule that with the sand delivery. So I got the ladder back up in here and I'm gonna do some undercoating. I'm glad I only did a half batch of mortar, because doing the undercoating, I'll extend it out overhead and it's hot up there, it's exhaustive and just tedious. So I'm glad that that half batch is done, and I can't imagine if I had another 2 buckets to go. So I got the majority of it all undercoated. There's some stuff that might need to get a little bit smoothed out, but I did a pretty good job. And then there's just this stuff here. And I was probably originally thinking I was gonna be working up in that corner, but I'll probably do another half batch and then tackle this spot here, and then kind of the inside above the door, and then the rest going kind of outside. And then there's just a little piece up there I've got to get. I got to figure out how to get as well. And then closing in on finishing the mortar on the Ferrocement dome. And most of it, really all the Ferrocement projects, getting closer and closer. So I got to keep at it. So at the end of the day, Tuesday, I finished basically the other half of a batch, so just one full batch. And got all that done, and then over here, got coating on all but just a little bit. I didn't get to that little bit. And out here, got pretty much all of that in the transition on the outside. So that's definitely the majority of the undercoating. There's just a little bit left, and that's good for today. Wednesday morning, got resupplied with cement and the 3 different kinds of steel, lath, rebar, and remesh, along with some sealant and foam, which will get me all prepped to do this insulation project on top of the Molly Stark Tower. That'll be the focus next week, but I'll probably start on the Ferrocement this week. I'm all down to one bag before this, so sand still hasn't arrived, but once it does, we totally supplied. I'm trimming the trees around the road. There's a red tail. I think it's a red tail hawk. The boys of the ground crew cleaning up the leaves into the biodigesters. Doing a little more prep for the sand delivery. The hawk and the goats chilling with me. So I've got to get a start on this Ferrocement aspect of insulating the roof. And basically how I do it is I separate it into terraces, and the rebar marks the wall of the top terrace. So the top terrace will be around the level of the bottom of that, or the top of the chimney, which will be basically the top of that right there is basically the line. So I'm making a line from there where it goes lower after there, and then with rebar I am bridging. I had a piece of rebar there and I had a piece of rebar there, so I'm doing my best to intersect both of those pieces of rebar. This one bends down, so it'll tie into the sidewall, and then it crosses over here, and then that bends, that'll tie into that one there, and then when the wall goes down it'll tie into that one. And basically I just need to tie these with stainless steel wire, and then when I do the next batch of mortar, just start to mortar it down so that it gets into place, and then I'll build a little wall with the rebar as the anchor point, and then use like forms and lath, and then make a little wall around here which will make like a tub, and then I'll fill the tub. I'll put a drain in it and then fill it with insulation, using panels on the top layer to make it flat, and using blocks of insulation underneath that to kind of level it out. And I may or may not use aircrete. I have a bunch of like styrofoam pebbles as well that I can like pour almost like a liquid. So my goal is at the very least to get this top terrace of insulation in on this tower, so that the effectiveness of any kind of like heating system is necessary. So it's going to raise the floor up about a foot to a foot and a half throughout this top thing, but it'll also make it level. And it'll probably just drain. It'll probably just be sloped to drain that way for now, I think is what I'll do. That'll be the simplest though. I could put a drain that goes down and out there, but that drain will probably just be like a sub drain, because the flat mortar things are prone to leak, so it's good to have a solid sub drain so that it's totally fine if the top layer leaks, because it'll the bottom layer will be insulated and can run off effectively. So I'm going to tie these pieces of rebar first, and then I'll see about when it's possible to do a batch of mortar to get them anchored in to start. So I finished prepping this little wall. I realized I didn't need to mortar the rebar in before I did it. So just got these 3 forms. I've got lath along the whole thing. The lath comes towards me. And so I'll get some mortar on this, get this started to be rocked in, and then maybe tomorrow I'll add a line of rebar at the top of the wall as well, so that it becomes a bond beam. Right now it's got a really funky line, but it's all good. It's all prepped, and I'm gonna go make a bit of mortar. So 2 buckets later, half batch of mortar, and I got really good coverage on basically the whole thing. I left a little hole there. I'm gonna put a drain in that corner, and then there's a drain in that corner as well. And I tried to leave some space up top. I kind of like went all the way up top there and there, but I should be able to connect to the rebar onto that lath. This doesn't have any remesh in it, but the rebar will give it the primary kind of strength, having the rebar on the top and the bottom. So I'll see about adding the 2 pieces of rebar tomorrow. This will be good, and as long as it doesn't move, pretty level, it'll be nice and solid for tomorrow for second coats. I'm just super excited. It's so incredible how like a wall like that can just go up in probably like 3 or 4 hours, and the strength of it and the integrity of it, and it's just incredible. There's no other material that you can work with that's gonna produce a similar result. It's hard to explain. Here's how this is looking Thursday morning, nice and solid, and I'm about to go mix up the other, basically half of a batch. So a half of a bag of cement, which will make me 2 buckets of mortar here, and I'll get a second coat on this, which I'll want before I pull the forms. I could most likely, honestly, like if I really needed to, I could probably pull the forms right now, but it would damage that for sure. If I waited till the end of the day, it would be less damage. If I waited till tomorrow, it'd be very minimal damage. But adding a second coat and then waiting till tomorrow will mean there will be no damage. And then it won't be until after I pull the forms that I add the rebar, so I won't add the second coat up to the top. And I'll get to that right now. Look at the cloud seeding today. We got a grid pattern. Also, and there's jets right there, fighter jet, F-35. I assume it's F-35. So I also realized that it was the exact same day I painted Molly, that it was the end of that day that what I'm gonna call the imaging drone, the black top secret imaging drone, flew over, directly over. So what are the odds that the first time I've ever seen something like that on the same time? Maybe it was like, there was like a signal. It was like, oh, something's going over. There might be a dragon that has emerged into the realm. And then they're like, oh, send the top secret drone. So they go over and they're like, yep, there's a dragon, that's for sure, but I don't think it's gonna eat anyone. That's my, that's the best theory. Anyways, mixing my half batch of mortar underneath this cloud seeded sky. Look at that one. That one just like starts and ends. They're just like, yep, oh, we're getting over a loadium, let's dump the load. So after that batch, there's full coverage. I worked on the drain a little bit, and it's, oh wait, there's a little tiny corner of lath that didn't get done. I think I'll have to cut that piece off, but nice and smooth. Second coat, I'll have to water it a time or two because it's gonna dry out so fast otherwise. And tomorrow will be the next step of form removal and whatnot, but that will be the start of the next episode. So that's it for up here for this episode, but I might be able to get some more stuff done down in the tower. These fucking coons got me again. They climbed up this branch, broke an entire branch to get a few peaches out of it. They broke that branch, little bastards. I should have known better. And they'll probably, they got me bad with the plums last year, and now they know. They know there's sweet fruit up here in the courtyard. So I should have known better. Anyways, the trees, it'll be alright. It's, it'll benefit this tree. That branch of that tree is gone. It'll survive. It'll be okay. I just missed out on a handful of peaches. and I really don't like these coons. I've killed one of them. My old dog Lewis, now deceased, he killed one of them. And now I just know I gotta get traps when the fruit are ready. Trap these coons and get rid of them, move them or something. Or motion lights. I was thinking about motion lights, whatever I gotta do to protect my fruit from these ninja barbarians that come and steal them. They're the bad ninjas. We got good ninjas and bad ninjas. The coons are bad. They come and steal all of our stuff. I'm getting a start on another new project over here. In the corner, I'm going to make a little bathroom, like shower stall thing here. And so I'm using this old piece of plywood, particle board, and there's a couple like drain type holes down there, so that should all help make this work. It kind of closes off the space a little bit, so I was a little hesitant about it, but I'm going for it. And then down here on this foundation area, I've got 3 pieces of rebar in here. So one of them connects that wall, crosses the tires, and then we'll tie into the other 2. This one here ties into that sidewall and is an extension, and then ties into that one, which essentially ties the corner of that arch back to that wall. And then the third one goes from underneath the stairs here where these tires are, and then connects the inside of the tire wall up to there. So between all of that, it should really basically give us a second hole connection, sort of like tendons or bones or something, connecting the inside of these. Right now, anyways, I'm just going to get a little bit on it to kind of get this started, but I'll need to add kind of lath around the edges and to make forms and stuff. So it'll be kind of piecemeal, but I'll just get it like mortared into place basically in this next batch. So a little bit of that batch went on the back side of these forms. Over here, kind of getting the water to drain and tying in the rebar, and similarly over here, I want to use my sprayer to water some of the cement, but it and the leveler just kind of like propping this lath up against that drain to make a like a grate for it, so that insulation doesn't get out if I've got little pebbles and critters don't get in the future. But most of it went on the inside. I'll show you. So I got a finish coat on this side wall, which I've been looking at every time I go up and down the stairwell, and it'd be nice to get that done. And then on the shower over here, I got it anchored in, and up for the first width of lath, it's going to go as wide as the bottom one. So I'll add more lath tomorrow. And then over here, I'm trying to make it a little more boxy than just like a full arch. And got to start the mortar to kind of like just get it in there. And I'm trying to make it somewhat level with the shelf above the window. And I'm thinking I'm going to like connect them and maybe make it kind of like a little area that, like a little nook area you could like read or sleep or store things or do different things, but just making that space usable and that window accessible, and maybe even big enough for like a little single bed or something. And then down here, this piece of rebar is mortared in. That piece of rebar, it has at least a start to get it into place, so it's not just like propped into place. And then this rebar here also is connected in with there and got a start on that kind of whole connector thing, and over here. So, and then I got a little more on the outside on the foundation over there. So this will take a bit of repeat batches, and you can see what I'll be working on next week. But that's all for the projects for this week. What do you think? You want to be on camera? You're a good boy. You want to say goodbye to everyone? Goodbye.